to left His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Raj, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai, Jai Jai Sitanath Nitai Gaura Premanand, all glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna, all glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna, all glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna, all glories to the lotus feet of Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Namo Krishna Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Shivaram Swami Niti Namne Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namne Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharani Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastajaya Shadharani Jaya. So we're going to read from Srimad Bhagavatam. This is third canto, chapter 32. Today we're reading from text number 28. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Jnanam ekam parachiner indriyer brahma nirgunam avabhati atarupena prantya shabdadi damina shabdadi damina. Jnanam ekam parachiner indriye brahma nirgunam avabhatyartha rupena prantya shabdati damina. Jnanam ekam parachiner indriye brahma nirgunam avabhatyartha rupena prantya shabdadi dhamina. Jnanam ekam parachiner indriye brahma nirgunam avabhatyartha rupena prantya shabdadi dhamina. Questions? Indriya Brahma Nirgunam Repeat. Jnanam, knowledge. Ekam, one. Parachinai, averse. Indriyai, by the senses. Brahma, the Supreme Absolute Truth. Nirgunam, beyond the material modes. Avabhati, appears. Atarupena, in the form of various objects. Parantya, mistakenly. Shabda adi, sound, and so on. Dharmina, endowed with. Translation. Those who are averse to the transcendence realize the Supreme Absolute Truth differently through speculative sense perception, and therefore, because of mistaken speculation, everything appears to them to be relative. Please repeat. Those who are averse to the transcendence realize the Supreme Absolute Truth differently through speculative sense perception. And therefore, because of mistaken speculation, everything appears to them to be relative. The Supreme Absolute Truth, the personality of Godhead, is one, and he is spread everywhere by his impersonal feature. This is clearly expressed in Bhagavad Gita. Lord Krishna says, "Everything that is experienced is but an expansion of my energy." Everything is sustained by him, but that does not mean that he is in everything. Sense perceptions, such as oral perception of the sound of a drum, visual perception of a beautiful woman, or perception of the delicious taste of a milk preparation by the tongue, all come through different senses and are therefore differently understood. Therefore, sensory knowledge is divided in different categories, although actually everything is one as a manifestation of the energy of the Supreme Lord. Similarly, the energies of fire are heat and illumination. And by these two energies, fire can display itself in many varieties or in diversified sense perception. Mayavadi philosophers declare this diversity to be false, but Vaishnava philosophers do not accept the different manifestations as false. They accept them as non-different from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because they are a display of his diverse energies. The philosophy that the Absolute is true and that this creation is false, Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya, is not accepted by Vaishnava philosophers. The example is given that although all that glitters is not gold, this does not mean that a glittering object is false. For example, an oyster shell appears to be golden. This appearance of golden hue is due only to the perception of the eyes, but that does not mean that the oyster shell is false. Similarly, by seeing the form of Lord Krishna, one cannot understand what he actually is, but this does not mean that he is false. The form of Krishna has to be understood as it is described in the books of knowledge, such as the Brahma Samhita. Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchit Ananda Vigraha. Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, has an eternal, blissful, spiritual body. By our imperfect sense perception, we cannot understand the form of the Lord. We have to acquire knowledge about him. Therefore it is said here, Jnanam Ekam. Bhagavad Gita confirms that they are fools who simply upon seeing Krishna, consider him a common man. They do not know the unlimited knowledge, power, and opulence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Material sense speculation leads to the conclusion that the Supreme is formless. It is because of such mental speculation that the conditioned soul remains in ignorance under the spell of illusory energy. The Supreme Person has to be understood by the transcendental sound vibrated by him in Bhagavad Gita, wherein he says that there is nothing superior to himself. The impersonal Brahman effulgence is resting on his personality. The purified, absolute version of Bhagavad Gita is compared to the river Ganges. Ganges water is so pure that it can purify even the asses and cows. But anyone who, disregarding the pure Ganges, wishes to be purified instead by the filthy water flowing in a drain cannot be successful. Similarly, one can successfully attain pure knowledge of the Absolute Truth only by hearing from the pure Absolute himself. In this verse, it is clearly said that those who are averse to the Supreme Personality of Godhead speculate with their imperfect senses about the nature of the Absolute Truth. The formless Brahman conception, however, can be received only by oral reception and not by personal experience. Knowledge is therefore acquired by oral reception. It is confirmed in the Vedanta Sutra. Shastrayo nitat. One has to acquire knowledge from the authorized scriptures. So-called speculative arguments about the Absolute Truth are therefore useless. The actual identity of the living entity is his consciousness, which is always present while the living entity is awake, dreaming, or in deep sleep. Even in deep sleep, he can perceive by consciousness whether he is happy or distressed. Thus, when consciousness is displayed through the medium of the subtle and gross material bodies, it is covered. But when the consciousness is purified in Krishna consciousness, one becomes free from the entanglement of repeated birth and death. When uncontaminated pure knowledge is uncovered from the modes of material nature, the actual identity of the living entity is discovered. He is eternally a servitor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The process of uncovering is like this. The rays of sunshine are luminous, and the sun itself is also luminous. In the presence of the sun, the rays illuminate just like the sun. But when the sunshine is covered by the spell of a cloud or by Maya, then darkness, the imperfection of perception, begins. Therefore, to get out of the entanglement of the spell of nescience, one has to awaken his spiritual consciousness or Krishna consciousness in terms of the authorized scriptures. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So, very philosophically weighty purport, shloka. So, Lord Kapila Dev is speaking to his mother. That's the context. Yes. This chapter 32 is called Entanglement in Fruitive Activities. And Lord Kapila Dev is continuing his preaching to his mother. So, can offer my respects to Spiritual Master and then try and say a few words on this very philosophically intense shloka, which I'm very unqualified to do. nonetheless. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshomilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Vanchakapatarabhyascha Kripa Sindhuvaevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gaura Tuje Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. I'll read the translation again. Those who are averse to the transcendence realize the supreme absolute truth differently through speculative sense perception, and therefore, because of mistaken speculation, everything appears to them to be relative. So, in text 26, we're on 28 today, but in 26, Lord Kapila Dev says that the Supreme Personality of Godhead alone is complete transcendental knowledge. And then he goes on to say that that according to different processes of understanding, that Supreme Absolute Truth, who is complete as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is known in different ways, either as the impersonal Brahman or Paramatma, or as the Personality of Godhead as the Purusha incarnation, Purusha avatar. So he's saying that according to a person's approach, then the absolute truth, which is one, is understood differently. Vedanti tattva vidas tattvam yajnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavan iti shabdite. Same thing as earlier in Bhagavatam, first canto, chapter 2 or 3. Advaya Jnanam. Advaya Jnanam. Advaita, Advaya means one. Non-different is what it means. Advaya, that there's only one thing. But those that know the absolute truth, they, according to the process by which they try to know the absolute truth, they refer to that one absolute truth differently. So typically the yogis, those that are practicing Raja Yoga, Stanga Yoga, they're typically described as being those persons that understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead as the Super Soul, the Paramatma, the Lord who dwells within every atom, and who also dwells within the heart of all living beings, and is the overseer, the neutral overseer, and the sanctioner of all, the fulfiller, sanctioner of all desires. So the yogis, they focus on that form of the personality of Godhead, and therefore they describe him and know him as Paramatma. And then the Jnanis, Jnana means knowledge, Jnanam means knowledge, and the Jnanis, those that practice the process of cultivating knowledge, which is a yoga, Jnana yoga, they know the absolute truth as Brahman, as impersonal aspect. So they don't know about his personal qualities, they just know about his all-pervasive potency, which is inherently, which is eternal and conscious. So then the other two categories of people are the karma yogis, those people that perform their actions for the sake of trying to come closer to God. According to their knowledge, they may be impersonalists or they may be personalists, But they're acting for the sake of spiritual advancement in understanding of this one absolute truth. And then the other category is karmis, fruitive workers, those people who are not particularly trying to approach the absolute truth in any way. They're just interested in themselves and satisfying their own material desires. Typically in the ancient Vedic context, then the understanding was there that we're the soul and that there is enjoyment to be had in this life and also in the next. So the karmis are also interested in going to the heavenly planets. And then also under that same category of karmis are the vikarmis, those people that don't want to follow any religious process for sense gratification. They just want to get sense gratification without any sense of obedience to God. So they don't follow any religious rules or regulations. They just do whatever they want to do to enjoy themselves as much as they can, which we're all, well, speaking for myself, which I'm very familiar with. So that's the other category of person. So Vedic literature is very organized. Krishna is very organized. Krishna is very categorical. And these categories, the devotees, we haven't mentioned, the yogis, the jnanis, the karmis, the vikarmis, that's it. There's nothing else. That categorizes everyone, all living beings, in terms of humans. That categorizes all types of humanoid life. Everyone can be analyzed and categorized into one of those groups. A person is either a karma yogi, a jnana yogi, a yogi, or a bhakta, or a devotee. Those are the main categories. So here, in terms of understanding the absolute truth, then the karma yogis, the jnana yogis, and the bhakti yogis, they all understand the absolute truth differently. Why? Why do they understand the absolute truth differently? Because they've received a different type of knowledge. They've received different knowledge. Those that are bereft of the association of pure devotees, they don't understand the personality of Godhead. Knowledge of the personality of Godhead comes from the Supreme Lord himself, or primarily from his devotees. The Supreme Lord is fulfilling all of these different types of humans' desires. He's fulfilling everyone's desires. That's his nature, because he, out of love, that's his nature, to love. So, out of love, his position is to fulfill everyone's desires, no matter what they are. He's totally selfless in his love for his parts and parcels. So, he provides, he fulfills all of the desires. So he provides all of these different processes, which are provided in response to inclinations and desires of the individual souls. That Manushya Partha, Manu, Manushya Partha, Sarvashaha, all people, Sarvasha, everyone, is following my path. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 4.12 that everyone is following my path. He's providing for everyone. It's him that is fulfilling all of the desires, no matter what they are. Why? Out of love, out of purely selfless love. His position as being the perfect selfless lover never changes. No matter what someone wants, he's always functioning from that position, the absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. He's always functioning out of that desire to love. So he's providing these different processes, and they contain different degrees of knowledge. Because each process contains a different degree of knowledge, the knowledge produces a different type of faith, and according to the faith, then one has particular activity. So knowledge and faith are the basis of all action, of all endeavour. So complete knowledge is knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is his full feature. There's nothing missing in Bhagavan. There's nothing missing in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's complete in that aspect. Simultaneously, he is also non-different from his other features, such as his expansion as Paramatma and his expansion as the impersonal Brahman. He's non-different, he's Advaya-Gyan. You can't say that he's different from these different features. At the same time, there is variety in him. There are unique characteristics in each of these aspects of him. The complete manifestation, display, demonstration, appearance of the Absolute Truth is Bhagavan. Then there's nothing missing. That's the full Absolute Truth, complete. The personality of Godhead. His other features, they don't display all of his characteristics. Just like now, we've got light in the room here, and we've got a little bit of warmth, but we don't have the full heat of the sun. The full heat of the sun and the full light of the sun are up on the sun planet, where we can't go anywhere near in these bodies. But we've got some display of that sun here, light. So the full characteristics of the sun are actually up in the sun, and we can also here we've also got a display of the sun, which we can't say is separate from the sun. The sun is in the room, but actually the sun is not completely in the room. The sun is away from us. So similarly, the Absolute Truth can be understood that the full display of the Supreme Absolute Truth is Bhagavan, and these other aspects of him are not complete displays. Here in this verse, the key as to why people don't get the full revelation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is given. Prabhupada says, the shloka says, Parichanai. No, it doesn't. It says, Parachinai. Parachinai. Prabhupada translates averse. So he says, those who are averse to the transcendence. So it's this, who are the those? Those are those conditioned souls. Mamai Vangsa Jiva Loke, the parts and parcels of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, us. Because of our aversion to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then he reciprocates with us differently. So according to the heart of the jiva, according to the desire of the jiva, then the Supreme Absolute Truth reciprocates accordingly. So according to the degree of aversion. The most averse, the furthest away from Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, are those that are not following any religious injunctions at all, and are just focused on their own selfish sense gratification, vikarmis. They're the furthest away. They're the most averse. They're displaying their aversion to the Absolute Truth fully. Then a step up is the karma yogis. They've come to understand, there must be something more to life than just me and my sense gratification. So they've got some desire to approach truth. Truth is an aspect of God. God is truth, Satyam Param. He's the supreme truth. Truth is God, is a manifestation of God. So they've got some desire in their heart to be truthful, to know truth, to understand what there is beyond. So therefore they make some endeavor to inquire. And then association is provided accordingly. According to the living entity's desire, then the Lord gives association. This is how he reciprocates. The way that the Lord reciprocates with the desires of the jiva is by providing association. So these days we don't practically see examples of this. But in ancient times, in the context of which the Shastra is spoken, then people in society could approach the Brahmanas, and the Brahmanas could provide knowledge and engagement. According to the Brahmanas' knowledge, then they'd give advice and give spiritual direction. So, one category is that people are engaged in karma yoga because they contact people with that level of knowledge, and they develop faith through hearing in that process, and they take it up. In this shloka, the category of people with this aversion that are being talked about are impersonalists. So those that want to know the absolute truth, but due to a lack of agyata sukriti, unknown piety, unknown devotional credit, they haven't yet awakened faith in the personality of Godhead. They've only got faith in the impersonal aspect of the Lord. Impersonal knowledge of the absolute truth is there in the scriptures. So people hear the scriptures from Brahmanas, from those that have the responsibility of carrying and preaching the Vedic literature. They hear about the impersonal feature of God from those that have knowledge of the impersonal feature, and therefore they take up this process of Jnana Yoga, which is described in Bhagavatam. Prahlad Maharaj section explains the process of Jnana Yoga. All of these types of yoga, they all have some element of bhakti in them. And it's that element of bhakti which empowers those yoga systems to be progressive. It's the element of bhakti in karma yoga. What is the element of bhakti in karma yoga? The element of bhakti in karma yoga is that I'll do something for the Supreme Absolute Truth. I'll do something for the Supreme Absolute Truth. Some of those people may have had knowledge of the personality of Godhead. They may have contacted Vaishnavas. They may have contacted Brahmanas with knowledge of the personal feature. So then they're thinking, I'm going to give up my results of work to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Or it may be that they've got impersonal knowledge, and they're thinking that I'm going to renounce the results of my work to achieve transcendence, and that I'm not ultimately a person, I'm ultimately just a fragment of the impersonal Brahman, and that by this act of giving up my attachment to my own material body, and the work that this body is inclined towards, then I'll become free from this bodily attachment, and I'll come closer to entering transcendence. It's an impersonal concept. According to the association that a person gets, then they have a corresponding knowledge, they have a corresponding faith, and they have a corresponding process. But Krishna is fulfilling everyone's desires out of love. But what he really wants is people to know him personally. That's his real desire. He wants people to know him as the personality of Godhead. Why? Because he knows that that's what will actually fully satisfy them. Sandrananda Visheshatma, that their heart will actually only be fully satisfied when they are in loving relationship with me. So out of compassion, that is Krishna's desire, that everyone know him and approach him. So Krishna's eager for conditioned souls to come back to him. So the main way that he expresses this is by, he himself appears within the material creation, and he also sends his representatives. His names, forms, qualities, pastimes, associates. And these aspects of him, they all enter into the material world to provide opportunity for conditioned souls to reconnect with him. Knowingly or unknowingly. That conditioned souls do something. In the Vedic paradigm, in the Vedic times, in the Vedic context, then there's lots of opportunities for conditioned souls to do little bits of devotional service that build up their spiritual bank account. Lots of opportunities. In modern times, there's very little opportunity by the influence of Kali. Kali's program, he's a ruler. He's got dominion over this period of time, and he's got his agents that work for him. There's a beautiful drama by Kavi Karnapur called Chaitanya Chandra Doya Nataka. It's very beautiful. It explains Kali's plan to cover people in the age of Kali, in his era, and how it explains how Mahaprabhu's Sankirtan movement is like an umbrella which protects people from the downpour of Kali. In the age of Kali, there's very little opportunity for people to acquire Agyata Sukriti. Practically speaking, it's through Srila Prabhupada's movement, through the Sankirtan devotees, that people have opportunity to make some connection with Bhakti. Yeah, okay mate, I'll give you a couple of bucks. There you go. Okay, I'll take a book. I'll hold the book. Prabhupada said they just hold the book. How much are they benefited? So the real welfare workers in the age of Kali are the Sankirtan devotees, because they are actually providing this Agyata Sukriti, these pious credits by which a conditioned soul can awaken attraction to the personality of Godhead. Not everyone becomes attracted to the personality of Godhead. Why? Some people do, some people don't. Why? Because of acquisition of Agyata Sukriti. So, Kali, he's trying to minimize, he's got everyone covered. Meat eating, intoxication, illicit sex, and gambling. These four legs of irreligion, he's by these things, he's keeping everyone away from God. You see little traces of devotion to God outside of the Vedic context, outside of the Vedic culture. But they're all mixed. Nowhere do we see any connection with the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his eternal abode. So by the influence of Kali, then in Kali Yuga people are covered over, and they don't have hardly any opportunity to acquire Agyata Sukriti. So Rupa Goswami explains in giving the qualification for devotional service is attraction. The qualification is attraction to this personality of Godhead. But in order for attraction to awaken in the jiva, they have to build up the prerequisite devotional credits, Agyata Sukriti. Agyata means, Agya means knowledge, means it reverses the verb, it means they don't have knowledge. Agyata Sukriti. Sukriti means piety, pious credits, but actually it means devotional service. It means credits of devotional service. So, lacking credits in devotional service, people don't have the attraction to the personality of Godhead. So the Sankirtan devotees, the Sankirtan mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is trying to provide this opportunity for conditioned souls to come to the personality of Godhead, to overcome this aversion. The aversion is very personal. I do not want to surrender to God. I want to be independent of the Supreme Lord. I just want to enjoy myself. I just want to control my situation, have things my way. I think it's Frank Sinatra, I can't remember, I don't know. I want it my way, right? He's got this song, I think it's him. Anyway, that is the inclination of the conditioned soul, because of the influence of false ego. Then the conditioned soul has this aversion to the personality of Godhead. We have to uproot this aversion to the Lord in our devotional service. We talk about offences to the name. Offence means person. You can't offend someone that's not a person. So our inherent aversions to the Lord are what cause us to make offence in bhakti. So we have to uproot this mentality. We uproot this mentality through the cultivation of humility. And this cultivation of humility in the practice of bhakti is the right mood for making our devotional service very potent, so that we can become freed from this aversion and the impurities that come from it. So, dear Lord, I'm so separated from you. I don't have any. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he prays like this, that I don't have the power to perform devotional activities. I can't do these devotional activities nicely. When do I ever give gifts in charity to devotees? When do I ever receive gifts with love? When do I reveal my mind in confidence and hear from others? He's lamenting like this in his prayers. It's a mood of separation. The cultivation of the mood of separation is relevant for all levels of devotee, from the highest lovers of Krishna to the beginners in the process of devotion. So this mood that Lord Chaitanya gave us of cultivating devotional service is relevant for everyone. Oh Krishna, I'm so far away from you. I've fallen into this well of material existence, and here I've lost all my taste for hearing about you, for chanting your name. So crying out to Krishna with this mood of humility, it's uprooting this aversion to Krishna and slowly cultivating. Rupa Goswami uses the word krama, small steps of progress in bhakti. And this humility, which is the fuel for the bhakti process to be effective and to be progressive. In this mood of feeling oneself to be very far away from Krishna. How can I chant your name so that I can be closer to you? Let me use this time that I've got now, this rare opportunity that I've got to sit here and chant your names, to spend some time with Radharani, spend some time with Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Cultivate the favourable mood of love to Radha and Krishna in chanting their names. Dear Lord, please let me appreciate your presence in your name, so that I can chant with attention, so that I can chant with love. Let me show my affection to you in chanting your names. Let me appreciate your kindness to me by chanting your names. So in this way, the devotee can cultivate this mood of love for Krishna. We are learning to love Krishna again. We've developed somehow or other, because I am very stupid, then we have become averse to this very beautiful person called Krishna, who performs the most beautiful pastimes of love with his most amazing devotees. So let's appreciate the personality of Godhead and his selfless love that he has for everyone that interacts with him, no matter what they want. I mean, it's it's inconceivable to us, Krishna's mercy, Krishna's kindness. There's no limit to it. It's inconceivable. You know, as a parent, we experience the limits of our tolerance. Well, I do. I experience the limits of my tolerance most days. Dealing with young people, it's very good for self-realization. Because you see where is my conditional love? You know? But Krishna's not like that. Krishna's not like that. There's no extent to which the living entity that Krishna was not willing to accept the living entity back. Krishna's love for us is completely only he can love us like he does. There's no one else that can love us like he can. So in devotional service, we're learning to become redependent on Krishna. No one can satisfy you. No one can satisfy your heart. Only Krishna can. We may try to, and we should, cultivate favourable relationships in relationship with Krishna, with all of Krishna's parts and parcels. And then we'll experience Krishna's love through them, which is unlimited. We'll experience Krishna's kindness through all of his parts and parcels. It's Krishna's potency of love which can fully saturate the living entity. There's nothing else that can fully saturate the desire of the living entity for love. It comes from Krishna. And then Krishna reciprocates with that. Krishna's it's very interesting how the absolute truth, the supreme absolute truth, has got no limitation, becomes limited. Why? How does it become limited? It becomes limited because the one singular living entity, very small, tiny living entity, can offer have just one object of loving affection, have one object of loving attachment, Krishna. Krishna can't do that. Krishna's got so many objects of loving attachment. Krishna loves so many living entities. The jiva can just love Krishna, single, ekeha kurunandana, just one focused determination, one focused bhakti, just on Krishna. So then Krishna becomes indebted to the living entity that develops that one single-minded loving attention, loving attraction. It becomes indebted to the soul. The soul is offering something that he feels, I can't reciprocate. How can like, how can I reciprocate with that? So this is the wonder of devotional service, the wonder of the devotees. So through hearing and chanting about Krishna, by hearing and chanting about Krishna and his exchanges with devotees, then a little bit of their attachment to Krishna can rub off on us. And that can overcome, that's so potent that it can overcome our inherent aversion. So we have to hear. We should hear. By hearing over and over and over and over, then this affection for Krishna rubs off on the jiva. Bhakti upajate pungsam shoka moha bhayapaha. That bhakti, it can sprout up in the heart of the jiva and destroy shoka moha bhayapaha, misery, fear, moha bhaya, shoka moha, illusion. It can destroy all of these things, this devotion. It sprouts up in the heart and it can dispel all of these clouds of covering. So the impersonalists are manifesting their aversion to Krishna. So there's two categories of impersonalists. One is the innocent impersonalist who is innocent. Well, ultimately no jiva is innocent. We are all experiencing the results of our desires. It's all on us, our situation. We're fully responsible. So acceptance is an aspect of surrender. 6 aspects of surrender. One of them is acceptance. We have to accept that we are responsible for our situation. Krishna has just reciprocated with our desires. So I'm going to accept my position and have the right mentality, as Lord Brahma Tattena Kampamsa Samikshamano explains. The impersonalists, some of them are less averse. Those that appreciate the impersonal aspect of God. Oh, it's so amazing. God is eternal. God is conscious. And I am part of that. They identify themselves with those features of Him. The eternality, the conscious awareness. So they identify with those features. And then, because they perceive those features in themselves, they think that He and them are the same. They just think there's one thing. They don't think that there's He and them. They just think that I'm just part of God that's forgotten my godness. So, impersonalists, Brahmavadis, through association with devotees, they can that knowledge can be upgraded. Well, actually, there are differences between you and God, and they can be made aware of those differences through devotee association. And that's what the Vedic system provides. It's a gradual process over many lifetimes, though. It's not one for us to think that we could just apply some Vedic yoga ladder in Kali Yuga. It's not possible. But in the Vedic context, in ancient times, then over many lifetimes someone could upgrade their association as a Gyata Sukriti builds up. So the Brahmavadis, they can be converted to devotees. There's another category, a more recent, through Shankaracharya, the Mayavadis, and that category of impersonalists, they're just offensive towards Krishna. Lord Chaitanya says that hearing from them is like willingly taking poison, killing oneself, because they have their aversion to the personality of Godhead inspires them to come up with some very nonsensical ideas, such as the Supreme Personality of Godhead's form is a manifestation of Brahman in this world in the mode of goodness. And you can just use it to focus on as you cultivate the mode of goodness. And as you come to Sattva-gun, you can then go beyond the external form of the Lord and appreciate His actual nature, which is that He's impersonal and you are actually Him. So this is very devious, envious, nasty, trying to abuse Krishna, trying to use Krishna for their own selfish ends. I'll get my happiness of being supreme, being the supreme controller, being supremely blissful. So it's this manifestation of this very ugly desire of the soul to try and enjoy something separate from Krishna. So the Mayavadis, Lord Chaitanya says they're just Krishna aparadis. So they're in a different category. They have to fully reject all of their nonsensical ideas. Their knowledge can't be upgraded. They just have to do an about turn. They're heading in a lower destination, Lord Chaitanya says. They're heading downwards. So they just have to do a complete about turn and come back. So that means that they have to get rid of all of their nonsensical ideas, which is hard to do because they've become very staunch in their concepts. But Lord Chaitanya was so compassionate that he was full of desire to help those living entities also. So he can do that. But he recommends to us, sadhakas, to be very cautious of the Mayavadi interpretation and be very cautious of their association because it can fuel the flames of aversion. Srila Prabhupada emphasizes by the process of hearing that the correct understanding of the Supreme Personality of Godhead can be awakened, and through hearing then we can reawaken our attachment to Krishna. I'm learning a nice verse at the moment. I'm not learning it very well because I can't remember it. but I'm in the process of learning it. It's from Madhya Lila chapter 2, text number 63, I believe. I'll just bring it up. I'll just read it to you. No, it's not. Oh, that's chapter 6. And I'll finish on that. Uplifting note of Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami. Incarnation of Kasturi Manjari. Srimati Radharani's very dear associate. Let's see what he says. I was hoping I was going to read this verse to you. I was thinking it was Majid chapter 2. I don't have my phone on me either. I've got it on my phone. Oh, it's not. I'm not going to be able to read it. Anyway, sorry about that. The essence of the verse is that by repeatedly hearing Lord Chaitanya's pastimes, then affection for Krishna is awakened in the heart, and love for Krishna will be awakened. So that's what we should do. Bhagavatam class in the morning is good. We have to do Bhagavatam class in the morning, but it's not enough for us. We have to be hearing about Krishna all the time. We have to cultivate the process of hearing as relevant to our cultivation of attachment to Krishna. So we should hear and hear and hear lots and lots. Fill all our time with hearing. These days it's very easy to do. You can put audio books on devices. You can always have something playing. When you notice it's quiet, well, if your absorption in Krishna is very strong, and if the flow of transcendental attachment is very strong in the heart, then the mind will always be remembering one's beloved. If the flow is not so strong, then we have to constantly keep hearing, so that in hearing we meditate on Krishna. So we can constantly keep ourselves absorbed in hearing. Whenever we get time, and we'll just fill all the time up with hearing. Sometimes devotees say, "Oh well, in Grihastha ashram, there's not much opportunity." I don't really agree. I've got 4 children. I've got a class full of kids. Work full time, but still time to hear. Lots of time to hear. So it's a matter of desire. It's a matter of what do we want to fill our hearts and minds with. So if it goes quiet for too long, then we want to hear about Krishna. So fill our minds and hearts with hearing about Krishna. Then we can overcome this aversion and reawaken to our natural condition, which is one of love. Does anyone have any comments or questions? Jai Srila Prabhu, any comments?
Yeah, lots of comments. Even though I had no questions, as you went through the class, you touched on so many aspects. I'm trying to remember the questions I had back of it. The ending point I was, you seemed to, you can help me understand again what you were just saying at the end there. How to get, the question comes up, how to get that desire to hear. What is it that shifts us from the place of saying, oh, I have too many responsibilities, I've got a job, I've got children, I have no time to hear. What shifts, what is it that does that? That gives that shift where you think, I can, I will, I can do it. Maybe that's the question.
Yeah, I mean, when I'm hearing from you, then I'm thinking, I want to hear your answer to that question. Yeah, well, it's hearing. By hearing, we develop a desire to do more hearing. Yeah, I think.
That's my answer.
Is that your answer? Okay, good. I'm on the right track. Yeah.
Krishna says, touch Sri Guru, just hear from
Yeah.
me. So we hear,
Yeah.
practicing yoga and full consciousness of me with mind attached to me. You know me in full, free from doubt.
Mm.
By simply hearing.
by hearing. Yeah. And then we can experience.
Like Seshika Prabhu is bringing it in my head. Just place yourself in front of transcendental sound. Whenever you've got doubts, whenever you've got difficulty, whatever it is, put yourself in front of some transcendental sound in the form of kirtana, the form of Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam. Just get yourself there.
Yeah.
Clear it all up.
Yeah, nectar. Yeah. Yeah, so here's that downpour of transcendental sand is mentioned as it's like the Ganges water. It's so pure that it can purify. It's coming down, purifying. Yes, nectar. Yeah. Yes. By hearing, we can tell the difference between how do I, what's the experience of life now when I'm not hearing about Krishna, and my mind's in Krishna, and then when I am, it's so much nicer just to be hearing about Krishna all the time. So we can compare the taste, the experience. So, yeah.
Another question.
Prabhu.
Question, is that okay?
Oh, definitely.
I'm just thinking how you actually answered it in your explanations. The attraction for the personal form of the Lord, with all the logic and reason, it's, with a lot of logic and reason, it would seem that the Brahman is so much greater. The Brahman realized able to encompass the universes and all kinds of, and then this personal form of God seems very limiting. So, such a strong default setting, that idea of the greatness factor. So that comes to mind. That's why most a lot of people are attracted in that way, because logically it's quite not easy to understand that unlimited can be present fully in a personal form. You did explain many aspects of it as you were speaking, so I think you actually answered that question in many ways.
As I was listening to you then, what's coming to mind is that when the devotees describe Krishna, then it's so attractive because they explain him fully. So the devotees' affection for Krishna, the devotees' appreciation of Krishna, as the devotees explaining about Krishna, and that rubs off. And then the listener becomes attracted. That's why it's important to hear from devotees, because then their attachment to Krishna, it kind of rubs off on us. So then just thinking about that, like someone who's got a bit of an impersonal, we have a default, like Maharaj was saying a few weeks back, right, the default setting, conditioned soul, somewhere in the system there's a checkbox which is set to impersonalism. We've kind of got it ingrained in our psyche, in our heart. So it's that hearing from the devotee that inspires us to switch the switch of attraction to Krishna. We become attracted by hearing. Overpowers, so much nicer, kind of overpowers the other aspects of it, because it's complete. It's got it all in it. I'm not losing out anything there. I'm just gaining. So it's more full. Should okay? Yes.
I was just thinking, you mentioned that one can't gain attraction for Krishna unless they've got Gata Sakriti, previous pious credit. But I was wondering how someone first gets a Gata Sakriti in the first place. Is it just chance, or is it something else arranged, or how does someone first get that Gata Sakriti so that they then can build that attraction?
Yeah, good question. Yeah. So one thing that came to mind when you were asking that is that Prabhupada was once asked, where did I, and then he said, I am your pious credits. Prabhupada said that to his disciples. So there's two ways, basically. Rupa Goswami, Nectar Devotion, explains two ways. One is that in a previous life, a soul has performed some devotional service or some devotional activity. So then, in this life, they get an opportunity to do more. There's no loss of their initiation. Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita. So that's one reason that someone will come along or come in contact with devotees, is that they've had contact in the past, and then suddenly, as soon as they contact a devotee, I'm attracted to this. This is, what's this? This is, so that attraction, it means that there was some connection in the past. And the other is that it's causeless mercy. Brahmananda Brahmante Konyu Bhagavanaji. That the jiva, the conditioned soul, is wandering in the Brahmanandas, in the material universes, but somehow or other, Guru Krishna Prasadi Pai, that Krishna, spiritual master, the devotee, somehow or other he comes in contact with Krishna or his devotee. So it's just causeless mercy. You just happen to. So therefore, the Sankirtan devotees always want to go out, because you don't go out, someone doesn't get a book. They just flowed on Brahmananda Brahmate. So Sankirtan devotees are thinking, I'm just going to go out and serve Lord Chaitanya's desire to be kind to others, because it's like that. It's just causeless mercy.
So in one sense, it's by chance that particular jiva got the mercy of the devotee.
Can be, yeah, can be. Yeah, it's causeless mercy. Yeah. So the bhakti sanjayate bhaktya, the devotional service only comes from devotion. It doesn't come from anywhere else. So it's spiritual, it's causeless. It doesn't have a cause outside of itself. Ahoitiki, it doesn't, hetu means cause, ahoitiki, pratihata. It doesn't have a cause other than itself, bhakti. Bhakti is the spiritual potency of Krishna. So the bhakti in the bhakta inspires him to go and give bhakti to others. So the cause is the mercy of the Lord. Is the mercy of the devotee. That devotee Prabhupada decided at 70 years of age I'm going to do this. I'm going to go to America and serve my spiritual master in instruction. So many people came in contact with him, who otherwise wouldn't have. So he says, I'm your pious credits. So yeah, so it's those two. It's causeless mercy. It's mercy. But it might be that someone's done some devotional service in the past also. And that's why you see that some people take it up quicker than others. And also the devotees are people, so, they've got their personality, their way of being, and there's something about the devotee that a non-devotee likes. So then they associate more and more. And that non-devotee, they build up all this pious credits for associating with the devotee. So that's why Prabhupada said, even if they just touch the book. So Sankirtan devotees, quite eager, that was one of my main kind of things, is just, here's the book. They just start holding the book. As soon as they start holding the book, immediately they're like, well, okay, I'm holding it. Yeah, okay, yeah, I'll give a donation, So Prabhupada said they just read one word, detachment. Just read one word, they get so much benefit. So that is Lord Chaitanya's desire. Lord Chaitanya felt like that. That's what Chaitanya Charitamrita starts with. That I've given Bhagavad Gita, I displayed all my Vrindavan pastimes, but still where is everyone? They're not attracted. So I'm going to come again as a devotee. So Krishna, he becomes a devotee as Lord Chaitanya to give bhakti, because bhakti comes from bhakti. So as a bhakta, he wants to give it out. Of course, bhakti is Krishna's potency, so Krishna can also give it out at his own will. But generally, this is his protocol, this is his kind of system for distribution. Comes from devotees. So there's two causes. Previous life they did it, or just causeless mercy. Yeah. Problem?
Thank you, Guru. So you mentioned a little bit about the holy name. I was just wondering why sometimes we refer Why don't we? It's Krishna, right? Is that just a synonym, Nam Prabhu, for Krishna?
Yeah, that's a good question, man. Yeah.
So I always wondered that when we talk about Nam Prabhu.
Yeah.
It's like takes offense.
Right. Yeah. So it's a good question. I mean, it's Nama, Nama, Nami, no, that Nama, 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 Namani, Nami. So you've got Nama and Nami, the name and the possessor of the name. So, they're simultaneously one and different. So there is a difference. The difference that the acharyas emphasize is that the name is more merciful. Right? That's what we hear about the name. That the difference between the name and the person is that the name is more merciful than the person. So to do deity worship, you have to second initiation. It's a whole procedure. But chanting, you can just take up chanting in any condition. The name is more merciful. So the name is different from him in one sense, and it's also not. It's also the same. So Nam Prabhu, yeah, then we're referring to the name, the difference, you know. But ultimately, Nam Prabhu is who is the name. Well, the name that you chant is dependent on your knowledge. Also, and the devotee's understanding impacts on the quality of their chanting. So, all processes depend on the quality of knowledge and faith in bhakti. Or in any process, everything depends. Any action depends on knowledge and faith. But in bhakti, the quality of one's knowledge impacts the quality of one's faith. The quality of one's faith impacts the quality of one's reciprocation with Krishna, the quality of one's experience. So, that's why teachings, also there's a beautiful book, Teachings of Lord Kapila, devotees compiled based on Prabhupada's lectures on Lord Kapila's teachings. And Prabhupada there, he gives this nice prayer about how to chant, you know. Dear Srimati Radharani, Hare, please engage me in your service. Dear Krishna, dear Radharani, please engage me in your service. So please engage me in your service. So that comes with a whole understanding of who the name is. So we chant with our understanding, and then that is called a sankalpa. My Guru Maharaj has written this book, and it's published now, called Sankalpa Kaumudi. It's about all of the different sankalpas, determinations that a devotee needs to go from Shraddha to Prema. And particularly that he's emphasizing from Anartha Nivritti to Asakti. How does a devotee get to Bhava Bhakti? What does a devotee need to do, understand, cultivate? What knowledge does a devotee need to have in order to get to Bhava Bhakti? What's relevant when? It's not that it just... How does one get from there to here? So, you know, someone comes into the Hare Krishna movement, yeah, just chant. You just chant. You know, they don't really know what the chanting means, or they're not really knowledgeable about the chanting. And then after some time they become aware of the 10 offences, and then they start to apply themselves and we start to apply ourselves according to avoiding the offences. So similarly, it carries on. So according to our determination, according to our approach to the name, then the name reciprocates. So my Guru Maharaj in this book is emphasizing the responsibility of the devotee to have the correct determination, which is based on correct understanding. And then there's 4 topics. One is mercy, kripa, the role of mercy in spiritual progress. Another is ekagrata, is attention. Another one is bhava seva, not bhava bhakti, but the emotional, the correct emotional mood for the mind through sadhana. From all the way through sadhana. From the beginning of sadhana to the end of sadhana, the correct. How do you put your feelings into chanting favourably? And then the 4th is determination, sankalpa. What he's kind of outlining what sankalpa is and what sankalpas the devotee can cultivate to progress. So it's very nice. It's like he's pulled so many things from Prabhupada's books, Charya's teachings, just on this topic, particularly Brihat Bhagavatamrita. And it's very nice to have kind of one topic in one place. So that was a bit of a waffle in response to your question. But yes, we should cultivate the right understanding of the name of Krishna so that we can chant it attentively. Yeah. And there are favourable understandings of the name which are relevant to us, so that we can be attentive. When we hear the glories of the name, when we hear about the name, then when we chant, then we feel more, focused. So again, hearing. Yeah. So there's a oneness and a difference. So there is Nam Prabhu, Nityananda Maham Nomi Savananda Karamparam Harinamam Pradadeva. The Lord Nityananda, He is the name, He gives the name, He gives the name out. So simultaneously, the name is also, Hare is the energy of the Lord, O energy of the Lord. Krishna is O Krishna. Rama is O Radhika Ramana, O Lord who is controlled by the love of Radharani. So then we chant with that understanding. So there's a oneness and a difference. Yeah. Bhaktivinoda Thakur in Navadvip, Jayapataka Maharaj presented this book by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, which describes the Namahata and describes the distribution of the name. Bhaktivinoda Thakur describes Nama, first level, offenceless name, not making offences, Nama. Then he says, Nama Rupa Yuktanam, Leela Guna Yuktanam, Leela Yuktanam, Rasita Yuktanam. And then there's another one for the next, which is for Prema, but it's a longer one I can't remember. So he says, if you chant the name attentively, you chant Nama. If you chant the name with fixed devotion, Nishta, you can chant Nama Rupa Nam. If you chant the name with Ruchi, you can chant Nama Guna Yuktanam, the name which is full of Krishna's form and Krishna's qualities. And you chant the name Asakti, then the name is full of Krishna's form, his qualities and his pastimes. And you chant the name Bhava, then it's full of your involvement in that. So it's the one name, but there's different features of the name that are revealed to the devotee according to his application, according to his progress. So there is variety in the Absolute Truth in all of its features. Yeah. And we have a responsibility to be informed in our practice so that our practice is attentive and progressive. Okay, finished there. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Go Prem Nandi. Hari Hari Bol.